Sometimes the internet throws up very unusual games, from which there is a strange aftertaste. They do not have beautiful graphics, hundreds of mechanics, the possibility of choice, sometimes they are not even on Steam. To find them you have to climb on godforsaken forums to look for grief developers. Who riveted this miracle alone and posted in the hope that someone will play their product. These games often have more recognizable graphics and are completed in literally an hour or two, because of which they do not have time to get bored allow you to tell some kind of story written by the author in a short time. However, due to the fact that such developers actually have free hands, the plot in such games can become frightening, absurd at times, defying any logic. These are the games that I dug out for you from the depths of the internet today, which I would like to tell you about. Let's get started. I found the first game for today in the vastness of Hio, and its description seemed quite interesting to me. This is a short detective horror story that tells about what happens after death. Our grandfather left us a will, according to which he rewrites his house to us. And now we need to come and inspect our estate. Right at the beginning, we are greeted by a letter in which a police officer says that our grandfather passed away a few weeks ago. Doctors stated that his death was natural, which means we have nothing to worry about. We get into the car and go to see our new house. Upon arrival, in front of us is the same hut in which our late grandfather lived. It is noteworthy that there are fallen trees on the road, because of which it is impossible to drive further, and it is quite strange to live in such a place, but perhaps we will skip this moment. From the outside, the property looks like an ordinary wooden house. Wandering around, I did not find anything strange, except for some door behind the house, apparently leading to the basement, but it, unfortunately, turned out to be closed. Well, now it's time to inspect the house itself. Everything inside turns out to be enough. Typical for an old American house. On the right is the kitchen, where the hero says that for some reason it smells bad. I suppose it's because of the soup that's been on the table for weeks. There's a photo of a girl on the table, and the hero says that she looks like his grandmother when she was young. But there were no color photos in her youth. A little further to the right we find an empty hall, in which on a table in the center lies a note from the medical center. Here, they write that our grandfather was found to have serious deviations in mental health and that he shows signs of severe depressive disorder, involuntary episodes of aggression and significant memory lapses, and prescribes some unknown pills for treatment. That is, grandfather was unwell, which for some reason he didn't tell us about. On the left is a bathroom, which has a mirror, where the developer was too lazy to reflect our mug. Further, there is a room with a piano, on which, by the way, you can even play. I also found a photo of the main character, Grandma and Grandpa here, but the faces of the latter two were crossed out for some reason. And here I had a guess that something might have been wrong with our grandfather, because the main character was gone for a very long time and Grandpa lived here all alone. After that, I decided to go up to the second floor, then turn right behind the left door and found Grandpa's room, in which he lay. That same will, here he describes in detail that after his grandmother's death he had a very hard time. He himself also fell ill with an unknown disease, therefore, realizing that he did not have long left, he passes on his house and the things in it to his only grandson, that is, to us. More, I did not find anything interesting here. The only thing is that, opposite Grandpa's room there was another room with a small library. And here on the table there was a clipping from a news magazine. In it we learn that some kind of maniac has started up in the area, several victims have already been found. And a photo of one of them is attached, and here we begin to doubt that our grandfather's death was really natural. Maybe the maniac killed him too. Something is wrong here. Our thoughts are interrupted by the alarm that turns on in our car. We abruptly run out into the street, run up to the car and turn off the alarm, then that the car has punctured tires. Then we suddenly feel uneasy, and what's more, it's already getting dark outside. And the nearest village is many kilometers away, and yes, you understood correctly. This means that the main character has no choice but to spend the night in the house of his late grandfather. And needless to say, in this plan something will obviously go wrong. In the middle of the night the hero wakes up because he can't sleep. We are going to go to the toilet, when suddenly downstairs on the first floor The piano starts playing. We're probably imagining things, but we should go and check. We go down the stairs, go to the piano and don't find anyone. We go back up to the room. Grandpa and his photo falls from the wall. It turns out that there was a note hanging behind the photo all this time. We start reading it. Memory lapses are becoming a big problem. I'm already forgetting what happened yesterday, so I leave this note for myself. The entrance to the attic is behind the closet in my room. That's where the key to the basement is. Why Grandpa would mention that the key to the basement is in the attic is unclear. But when we go to the closet, which is standing by the wall, we find that indeed. We can move it. Behind it there is a secret passage to the attic. I wonder how Grandpa could hide the fact of the existence of this passage from Grandma. But somehow he did it. We climb up and see that the light is still on here. Apparently Grandpa has been here. And at this point I suggest you guess for yourself what the hell is going on here. Women's things lying in a pile of boxes on his chest, women's underwear. Women's photos and most importantly, a nickname that is lying right in the middle of the table. And I wish I hadn't read what's written there. Here, my grandfather wrote down his life so as not to forget what he did a few days ago. In the first entry, he writes that his condition is rapidly deteriorating, and he is thinking about committing suicide. His grandmother's death hit him too hard. In the next entry, he admits that he has already killed someone, and it was his old friend who came to him after many years of separation. But unexpectedly, aggression, alcohol, and he lost control of himself. The third entry says that the grandfather found some girl named Tracy, who now lives with him in the same house. In the next entry, which is written 2 days later, he admits that he stabbed her and hung her because she decided to leave him. A week after that, he writes that he found another girl named Rebecca, with whom he had a great time. Everything was fine until she did not want to leave, and to teach her a lesson, he cut off her leg and hung her on chains. I think I will not tell you what is written here, because it is just some kind of fucked up, but let's say here he writes that the remains of one of them are even lying in his refrigerator in the kitchen, which explains the bad smell that we smelled there. On the left on the board there is a description of the girls, from which we learn what exactly he did with each of them: Tracy, Rebecca. In fact, all the evidence now leads us to the basements. So we take the key from it from the table, go down, open the door. We are met by a concrete passage down. But having gone inside, the door slams behind us. The only way that remains for us is another door, which is ahead. Well, and behind it we find all those girls who lived with the grandfather in his house. Everyone he wrote about is here, each of them, each had their own circumstances, due to which they passed away. And at one point, after the inspection, the hero realizes that one girl is missing here. Just one, after which we hear a shot. It seems that it was that very girl. And now we are given an audio report about what happened, which says that against the background of mass disappearances in the area, the police decided to check the grandfather's house. As a result of the inspection, a basement with kidnapped victims was found in the house, with the son of the deceased owner of the house with a hole in his head. And next to her lay Julia, one of the girls who survived everything that happened, also with a hole in her head. And in her hands was found her grandfather's shotgun. The end. Actually, it turned out that the grandfather of the main character was the very same maniac that the police were looking for. But the irony is that due to memory lapses, he apparently forgot about it. At the moment when he wrote a will to the main character, he did not even know about it. But who knew that as a result of this whole story, the grandfather's son, who simply came to inspect the donated inheritance, would get it. But this is such a first game. It is quite short and can be completed in only 20 minutes. So in general a beer will do. Write in the comments what you think about it and how you like this whole story. I will be very interested to read. Well, in the meantime, the next game awaits us on the threshold, which I also dug up in the backwaters of the internet and which, after passing, will also raise some questions in you. The second game on our list is called Dingen Howers. This time the plot will send us to a mysterious cemetery, where two friends will need to dig up two bodies that were buried in the forest, but suddenly they realize that something is going wrong. Agree, it sounds fascinating. This description seemed quite interesting to me. So not to try to play it would be a real sin. At the very beginning, we are greeted by a cinematic camera, the angles of which show that the main character is currently in some cemetery. At first, everything looks quite ordinary for a typical game of this genre. We are standing at some grave and mourning a comrade with an extraordinary name, Kamsija. I hope I read it correctly, but our prayers are interrupted by the horn of a car, which at that moment parked near the cemetery. I was there, decided to answer him something, but instead decided to go to the menu and pull the slider from the INSA. Since my mouse was flying like a helicopter at that moment, well, in general, we are allowed to run around the cemetery a little and examine the nearby graves, though for some reason, only our grave has some name, while all the other tombstones are empty for some reason. Well, let's imagine that everything is fine. We approach the iron gates, right behind it stands the same black car, which kindly invites us to get in. We get in, it turns out that our friend has come for us, who immediately offers us an extraordinary adventure. He says that the guys he recently killed came to him in a dream, and now he believes that he is under a terrible curse that can only be lifted in one way. To do this, he needs to dig up these bodies and burn them, with which he asks the main character to help. Well, considering that I almost died laughing when I heard the voiceover of this guy, I think that his invitation can be accepted. He is our buddy after all, so helping him is our sacred duty. So we agree. However, in order not to arouse suspicion, first we need to ask permission to excavate from the farmer who owns the site where the bodies are buried. So initially we stop by his house. By the way, what's interesting is that at this moment our friend also gets out of the car. And if we come close to him, we will see that the name Vuk Dobrik is written on his sweater. By the way, this is the name of the developer who made the game part-time. Voiced our dumb comrade. We open the gate and enter the farmer's territory. By the way, there is a sign indicating that outsiders are prohibited from entering, but we apparently don't care. We run a little around the house and notice some guy sitting at a table. This is our farmer. The guy, of course, like our friend, also seems to have escaped from the circus. But judging by his communication, he seems adequately sends us to hell. Yes, he tells us to get off his territory. However, we are not fools. We say that we came from the government, and after several Tarantino-like dialogues, he will allow us to go. Excavations, as soon as we carry several bags of coal to his house. Yes, these ones that are lying near him. Here I accidentally had a question. Why the hell am I doing all this? And not my friend who asked me for help. But unfortunately, the game did not allow me to ask this question. We carry the first bag, then the second bag. The friend finally beeps from his car, indicating that we are ready to go. And we are already driving to the object itself. On the way we suddenly hear an extraordinary puzzle awaited me, where I need to find two gears to activate this barrier and open it. They were lying nearby, behind the stones. Again, let's skip the moment that for some reason the main character is doing this, despite the fact that the paranoid with strange dreams is our friend. But we solve the riddle, the barrier opens and we drive on. Then a friend tells us that the bodies are buried not far from roads, and we can easily find them if we just look at us. Also advises us not to make much noise, and after we dig, put the bag in the car. Arriving at the place, they give us a shovel and send us forward along the road. A friend at this moment goes in the other direction to dig another grave. So here they send us alone, through a quiet forest. At night. Oh well, I'm lying to you, except for one small rustling behind. From the trees, nothing really scared me here. After about half a minute of walking, near the road I saw a filled-in hole. Apparently this is what I need. We approach it and start digging it. Inside it really is some kind of skeleton. The game offers us to put it in the bag and after that sends us back. Well, our friend should have returned by now. He said he would be waiting for us in the car. So we need to hurry back, it should be fast. Got it. Having reached the car, we put the bag in the trunk. Get into the car and it's time to leave. But we get hit on the head. Then we understand that we were not alone all this time. However, we were not killed, but only stunned. And we come to in some room with a strange pentagram on the floor, on the right. There is a note hanging on the wall: "I didn't succeed, but you should. Run away." We kick the door out of the room and see that on the right on the wall there is some key. That can be taken. We take it in. And we shit ourselves from the fact that some guy appears in front of us, who is walking towards us. At first I didn't understand what to do, but then I started running in circles from him. Purely on intuition, I feel some door that needs to be opened with 2 keys, using the first key. Nearby I find the second, after which the door gives in to us. We open us. Aha, this is what you thought about. And yes, the main character was simply buried. The end. To be honest, even I did not expect such a twist at the end. I thought that the outcome would be something like a paranormal, where some spirits, ghosts would appear and hunt us. But it turned out that our friend was in cahoots with the farmer. Apparently, they agreed to get rid of us as the only witness. After all, let me remind you, our friend in the game lore killed 2 people, and this whole plan was just to eliminate us so that we would not tell anyone anything. Surprisingly, this is a rather unusual outcome that even I could not read. This game is very short and can be completed in literally 10 to 15 minutes, but there is something in it. And this is even a good basis for some thriller or detective series. So in general, this turkey can be given a like. And I, meanwhile, move on to the last of the most drama game on this list. For someone it will even be lifelike. It is called Dead Tape's Fading Father is going to tell us about the story of one family whose father apparently is not a role model, and after completing this game, I will say that this is just a very mild formulation. We wake up in a room with a bed, a wardrobe, a nightstand, on which lies a hammer. At this moment they start calling us and we go out into the corridor to pick up the phone. At the same time, we see that we are in some kind of Soviet Khrushchev with old carpets and shabby wallpaper. Picking up the phone, we hear some kind of incoherent nonsense that we are not even able to understand. The main character curses the callers and hangs up. Right next to it is a door that leads us to the kitchen. Here we meet a woman who is also our wife. And we tell her that someone unknown called us. And we share that we still have nightmares ever since we moved here. Then we decide to have a snack, ask if there is anything to eat in the fridge. Open it and find a real treasure trove of any working man. Take a pizza and a drink from the shelf, and immediately hear reproaches from the wife that we are always drinking anyway, but we, like a real SQW, send her where to. And have a snack of our royal breakfast. Here the family situation of the main character becomes clear. He is a perpetual drunkard who drinks all day, slacks off on work and blames everyone around him for all the troubles. What can we say if the wife asks us to wash off our vomit stains in the bathroom? And the main character refuses and tells her to do it herself. So, John shifts the blame for the broken TV onto her and their son. But she says that no one else watches it anyway. So none of them could have broken it. The hero, grumbling and staggering, goes and fixes the TV, having pounded on it a couple of times. After which, grumbling and staggering, goes to clean the bathroom from his own waste. Here, unexpectedly, he hears a strange sound from his room. Entering it, he finds in which lies some cassette, apparently, someone wants us to listen to it. We go back to the hallway, insert it into the TV, immerse ourselves in the recording. Here we watch some trip adventure from the perspective of some tall creature. Unfortunately, because of my range I practically did not see anything. because of which I had difficulty feeling the doors through which it was necessary to pass in order to do this. This tall someone even bent down, but then it becomes obvious that we can see everything. After a few doorways we come out into a room where we meet the main character. And after that the recording breaks off. After which the phone rings again, this time the boss calls, who is tired of the main character being a heavy drinker and threatens to fire us if we don't go to work tomorrow. Here the main character begins another trip, during which we go into the bathroom and are forced to walk through the dark, to find a reward in the form of a bottle of vodka at the end. Thus, the game shows us that the hero is trying to wash away all his problems through alcohol, and that the bottle is the only means of fighting bad thoughts for him. It gets to the point that we wake up in the bathroom, where we are met by an upset wife asking us to get out of there. I don't know about you, but I feel a little disgusted with the main character. Here we find a little son in the room, who apparently came home from school, and needs help with his homework. But as expected, instead of the help and support that the son expects, the father starts accusing him of that his son does nothing all day, that he is lazy, that he does not have circumstances in the form of an evil boss and a dissatisfied wife, who constantly nag him and ultimately leave his son to study alone. As you understand, there is no evil boss and dissatisfied wife in reality. The boss just called and demanded that he stop drinking. And his wife, on the contrary, listens to him and tries to help. But it seems to the main character that everything is exactly the opposite. Yes, it gets to the point that his wife starts talking about leaving him, and the main character considers this an act of betrayal. After that, he starts getting bored again and decides to board up the front door. He starts carrying boards to the door, and with each new board it seems to him that the rooms in the house are changing places. Then instead of the kitchen there will be a bedroom. Then instead of the son's room there will be just a solid wall. Then what's even worse, some scary monster will appear. Then the alcoholic binge will only become stronger and his hallucinations will start throwing him into strange rooms with coffins, in which there are a bunch of empty bottles, ventilation, through which he will crawl with a lighter on, into a car, where he is driving somewhere with his wife and with his child in an unknown deserted space. Which, by the way, will end with a scene where he allegedly knocks them down. But all this will again end with his long-awaited prize, which he considers God's due, alcohol after. Red Trip we again find the cassette, but this time it, along with all the others, gushes from some ventilation in the kitchen. This time the recording will show us how someone tall enters the child's room and sees how the closet is stained with some blood. And after watching it we go to the closet in real life to open it. This time the closet gives in to us. Behind it we find a certain passage that will lead us. Upstairs we get to a dark attic. Under the dim light we open the next door, behind which there will be a passage to the left. Having already entered it, we will see, yes, a wife and a child. This time the main character will have a hammer in his hands. Right there from the first floor we hear how someone is knocking on the front door. Going down, we hear a voice. It's the police. Here the three adventures of the main character reach their peak, apparently, at the moment he is intoxicated, because of which we see a row on the screen. Having gone a little further, we go into our own room, where his wife will lie in a coffin. Coming back to the son's room and approaching him, we will see the fate of his child. And after that, at the very end, when he decides to approach the main entrance door, after opening it, he will see the end. That's the adventure. This is probably the deepest of the games that were in this video today. At least in it you can clearly trace the message, unlike the first two games. Alcohol is evil. And you should not abuse it, and it is better not to drink it at all. Because it is harmful in any quantity. And I don't know what you think, but I put it above everything that was in today's issue. And what do you think? I would be happy to know. Share it in the comments. Well, for today my content is exhausted. I hope that you liked the video about strange and unknown indie horrors. Because I really tried to find the most interesting examples for you. Well, in the meantime, I'll go put the kettle on to warm up. Get out the cookies and enjoy the beautiful atmospheric rain that's falling outside my window. Bye.